Antonio tried to be cool, but even as the roar was in its first birth, he turned slowly to meet Felix's eyes looking directly into his. Felix nodded his head, and Antonio responded, and both as one, just as quickly, turned away to face his own corner. Bong, 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 the roar turned to stillness. Ladies and gentlemen, señoras y señoras, the announcer spoke slowly, pleased at his bilingual efforts. Now the moment we have all been waiting for, the main event between two young, fine Puerto Rican fighters, products of our own Lower East Side. Loisaida called out a member of the audience. In this corner, weighing 134 pounds, Felix Vargas, and in this corner, weighing 133 pounds, Antonio Cruz. The winner will represent the boys' club in the Tournament of Champions, the Golden Gloves, and there will be no draw. May the best man win. The cheering of the crowd shook the window panes of the old building surrounding Tompkins Square Park. At the center of the ring, the referee was giving instructions to the youngsters. Keep your punches up, no low blows, no punching on the back of the head, keep your heads up, understand? Let's have a clean fight. Now shake hands and come out fighting. Both youngsters touched gloves and nodded. They turned and danced quickly to their corners. Their head towels and dressing gowns were lifted neatly from their shoulders by their trainer's nimble fingers. Antonio crossed himself. Felix did the same. Bong bong, round one. Felix and Antonio turned and faced each other squarely in a fighting pose. Felix wasted no time. He came in fast, head low, half hunched towards his right shoulder, and lashed out with a straight left. He missed a right cross as Antonio slipped the punch and countered with 1, 2, 3 lefts that snapped Felix's head back, sending a mild shock coursing through him. If Felix had any small doubt about their friendship affecting their fight, it was being neatly dispelled. Antonio danced a joy to behold. His left hand was like a piston, pumping jabs one right after another with seeming ease. Felix bobbed and weaved and never stopped boring in. He knew that at long range he was at a disadvantage. Antonio had too much reach on him. Only by coming in close could Felix hope to achieve the dreamed of knockout. Antonio missed the dynamite that was stored in Amigo Brothers' fist. He ducked a short right and missed a left hook. Felix trapped him against the ropes just long enough to pour some punishing rights and lefts to Antonio's hard midsection. Antonio slipped away from Felix, crashing 2 lefts to his head, which set Felix's right ear to ringing. Bong! Both amigos froze a punch well on its way, sending up a roar of approval for good sportsmanship. Felix walked briskly back to his corner. His right ear had not stopped ringing. Antonio gracefully danced his way towards his stool, none the worse, except for glowing glove burns showing angry red against the whiteness of his midribs. Watch that right, Tony, his trainer talked into his ear. Remember, Felix always goes to the body. He'll want you to drop your hands for his overhand left or right. Got it? Antonio nodded, spraying water out between his teeth. He felt better as his sore midsection was being firmly rubbed. Felix's corner was also busy. You gotta get in there, fella. Felix's trainer poured water over his curly afro locks. Get in there or he's gonna chop you up from way back. Bong bong, round 2. Felix was off his stool and rushed Antonio like a bull, sending a hard right to his head. Beads of water exploded from Antonio's long hair. Antonio hurt, set back a blurring barrage of lefts and rights that only meant pain to Felix, who returned with a short left to the head followed by a looping right to the body. Antonio countered with his own flurry, forcing Felix to give ground, but not for long. Felix bobbed and weaved, occasionally punching his two gloves together. Antonio waited for the rush that was sure to come. Felix closed in and feinted with his left shoulder and threw a right instead. Light suddenly exploded inside Felix's head as Antonio slipped the blow and hit him with a piston-like left, catching him flush on the point of his chin. Bedlam broke loose as Felix's legs momentarily buckled. He fought off a series of rights and lefts and came back with a strong right that taught Antonio respect. Antonio danced in carefully. He knew Felix had the habit of playing possum when hurt, to sucker an opponent within reach of the powerful bombs he carried in each fist. A right to the head slowed Antonio's pretty dancing. He answered with his own left at Felix's right eye that began puffing up within 3 seconds. Antonio, a bit too eager, moved in too close, and Felix had him entangled into a rip-roaring, punching toe-to-toe slugfest that brought the whole Tompkins Square Park screaming to its feet. Rights to the body, lefts to the head. Neither fighter was giving an inch. Suddenly, a short right caught Antonio squarely on the chin. His long legs turned to jelly, and his arms flailed out desperately. Felix, grunting like a bull, threw wild punches from every direction. Antonio, groggy, bobbed and weaved, evading most of the blows. Suddenly, his head cleared. His left flashed out hard and straight, catching Felix on the bridge of his nose. Felix lashed with a haymaker right off the ghetto streets. At the same instant, his eye caught another left hook from Antonio. Felix swung out, trying to clear the pain. Only the frenzied screaming of those along ringside let him know that he had dropped Antonio. Fighting off the growing haze, Antonio struggled to his feet, got up, ducked, and threw a smashing right that dropped Felix flat on his back. Felix got up fast as he could in his own corner, groggy but still game. He didn't even hear the count. In a fog, he heard the roaring of the crowd, who seemed to have gone insane. His head cleared to hear the bell sound at the end of the round. He was glad. His trainer sat him down on the stool. In his corner, Antonio was doing what all fighters do when they are hurt. They sit and smile at everyone. The referee signaled the ring doctor to check the fighters out. He did so and then gave his okay. The cold water sponges brought clarity to both Amigo brothers. They were rubbed until their circulation ran free. Bong, round 3, the final round. Up to now, it had been tic-tac-toe, pretty much even, but everyone knew there could be no draw and that this round would decide the winner. This time, to Felix's surprise, it was Antonio who came out fast, charging across the ring. Felix braced himself but couldn't ward off the barrage of punches. Antonio drove Felix hard against the ropes. The crowd ate it up. Thus far, the two had fought with mucho corazon. Messed that up so bad. Felix tapped his gloves, and commenced his attack anew. Antonio, throwing boxer's caution to the winds, jumped in to meet him. Both pounded away, neither gave an inch and neither fell to the canvas. Felix's left eye was tightly closed. Claret red, blood poured from Antonio's nose. They fought toe to toe. The sounds of their blows were loud in contrast to the silence of the crowd gone completely mute. The referee was stunned by their savagery. Bong, 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 the bell sounded over and over again. Felix and Antonio were past hearing. Their blows continued to pound on each other like hailstones. Finally, the referee and 2 of the trainers pried Felix and Antonio apart. Cold water was poured over them to bring them back to their senses. They looked around and then rushed towards each other. A cry of alarm surged through Tompkins Square Park. Was this a fight to the death instead of a boxing match? The fear soon gave way to the wave upon wave of cheering as the 2 amigos embraced. No matter what the decision, they knew they would always be champions to each other. Bong, bong, bong. Ladies and gentlemen, senoras and senoras, the winner and the representative to the Golden Gloves Tournament of Champions is... The announcer turned to point to the winner and found himself alone. Arm in arm, the champions had already left the ring.